The day I almost signed my kids away, the wind in Lake Haven cut straight through my coat and my pride. I had Theo tucked under one arm, Ava under the other. 6 months old cheeks, like peaches, warm little breaths on my collarbone, and I was standing on the steps of Harbor Light Adoption Center, pretending I was strong. I told myself I was doing the responsible thing, the brave thing. What I really was out of time. Inside the lobby tried to be gentle lamps with soft shades, the kind of chairs you sink into at a dentist office, so you forget the drill, but nothing could dull the sound of a pen waiting to scratch my name across a goodbye. Ms. Patel, the director, met me with eyes that understood too much. She said the Carters, a sweet couple from the suburbs, big backyard swing already installed, were ready. "Take a minute if you need," she whispered. I took it. I pulled my twins close and breathed them in like oxygen. "This isn't because I don't love you," I told them, voice shaking. "It's because love doesn't pay rent, and formula costs more than courage." I kissed their foreheads, and a knock broke the moment. Riley Monroe. A receptionist hovered in the doorway, nervous. "There's someone who wants to speak with you." A benefactor. A benefactor. I thought it was code for donor tour. Maybe I'd be Exhibit A, a live example of why the agency needed money. I followed anyway, because when you're out of options, you go wherever a door cracks open. He was standing by a window that framed the gray city like a postcard, tall dark suit that fit too well, presence that made the room pay attention. Damon Pierce. Even if you don't track business news, you know the legend developer who turned the riverfront into something people actually want to walk by. He turned when I entered. "Ms. Monroe," he said, voice deep but soft. "Have a seat." I stayed standing. "I don't do photo ops," I told him. "Not today." His mouth tilted like I'd surprised him. "I'm not here for a photo. I review cases at Harbor Light. Yours stopped me." I laughed, bitter and tired. "A lot of things stop me: eviction notices, medical bills, bus schedules. We all have our thing." He glanced at Theo, who was starting to fuss, and something shifted in his face. "You're a good mom. Good doesn't buy diapers." He stepped closer, hands open like a referee. 5 years ago, my sister thought asking for help made her weak. She worked nights, skipped meals, hid the stress. Her heart didn't make it. Her daughter Emma lives with her grandparents because I was too late. He inhaled, slow, steady. "I don't want to be late again." What does that even mean? He looked me in the eye and said, the sentence that detonated the room. "I'll take them." My arms tightened around the babies. "Excuse me." "Not adopt them," he added fast. "I'll take the weight. I own a building 2 bus lines from here. There's a 3-bedroom furnished sitting empty. You can have it for a year, no rent. I can put you in an assistant role at Pearson Rowe. HR needs someone who can juggle chaos. Benefits. On-site childcare. The catch is, you have to say yes." I stared at him like he'd offered me the moon and expected me to carry it home in a grocery bag. "Why me?" "Because you haven't quit," he said. "And because someone should have stepped in for my sister sooner, and I can't fix the past, but I can do this. People don't just hand out apartments," I shot back. "What do you want in return? Work hard. Tell me when you need help. And someday when you can do for someone else what I'm doing for you." Ms. Patel had been quiet the whole time, palms pressed together at her chest. "Riley," she whispered, "you can keep them. Hope is a dangerous thing when you've learned to live without it." It flared anyway. I signed a lease instead of a surrender. I signed an employment contract with my hands shaking. When I walked out of Harbor Light, the wind was still cruel, but for the first time in months, it didn't knock me over. I won't bore you with every Tuesday afternoon that followed. Just know I worked like I was trying to outrun the girl on those steps. I learned the office coffee machine and the schedule matrix from hell. I learned which executives answered emails at 2 a.m. and which ones only responded when the subject line screamed. I learned the smell of my twins' daycare at the building, baby shampoo and construction paper, and I learned the sound of my own laugh coming back cautiously at first, then louder. And Damon, he wasn't the statue I'd met at the window. He listened more than you'd expect. He carried gravity around like a secret he couldn't set down, but he tried. He'd stop at my desk, nod at the photo of the twins, say, "How's Theo's sleep?" like a board meeting could hinge on whether my son discovered his toes. Every now and then a crack in the armor mention of his niece Emma, this solemn 8-year-old who liked maps and collected smooth rocks, and apparently his whole heart. 3 months in, he asked me to coordinate a charity gala for the new pediatric wing he was funding. "Our planner is out," he said. "You've got the brain for it." I did. I built timelines, wrangled vendors, memoed. The string quartet fought with a florist who tried to charge double for adding peonies. When I slipped into a navy dress the night of the gala, a loaner from a coworker with better taste than money, the mirror tilted back a version of me I hadn't seen since before the bills multiplied. The ballroom glittered all crystal and chatter and expensive intentions. I was halfway through checking the place cards when a woman in diamonds like streetlights stepped into my space. "You must be the single mother," she said, a smile that wasn't. "So brave, bringing yourself up by Damon's bootstraps. Adorable twins, I hear." I blinked. The air tasted like metal. "And you are Marjorie Langford," she purred. "We sit on 3 of the same boards as Damon. He just told us your story, tragic but inspiring. Perfect for the program." I found Damon across the room, a tux and a storm cloud. When he reached me, I didn't wait. "You used me," I said low. "You turned my life into a fundraising bullet point." He winced. "I mentioned a hardworking employee who's juggling twins. I didn't give details." "You gave enough," I said. "My life isn't a prop." Before he could speak, dinner chimes cut the air. He touched my arm, then thought better of it. "We'll talk after," he promised. He took the stage later, and somewhere in the middle of his polished remarks, he abandoned the script. He talked about his sister Celine, about the night shifts, the skipped meals the day her heart gave up before help showed up. He didn't dress it up. He let it hurt. "This wing isn't about buildings," he said, voice rough. "It's about making sure no child loses a parent because pride and poverty team up." His gaze found me only for a second and softened. "It's about second chances for families, and for those of us who didn't show up when it mattered." The room stood to their feet. I stayed seated, throat-burning anger melting into something messier, understanding maybe. On the terrace afterward, with the city humming below us, he found me. "You were right," he said. "No armor, no defense. I should have asked. It won't happen again." "It better not," I said, trying to be stern, failing. "Your speech. It mattered." Weeks later, chaos returned in a different outfit. Damon flew overnight to London, hostile takeover storm, and the office went feral. In the middle of triaging his emails, my phone rang. "This is Principal Gaines from Riverbend Elementary," a steady voice said. "You're listed as Emma Pierce's emergency contact. She's running a fever. We can't reach her grandparents." I didn't ask how I got on that form. I grabbed my bag and ran. Emma was small and flushed and brave about it. "Is Uncle Damon in trouble?" she asked from the nurse's cot, eyes too wise. "He left fast. Mom's friends left fast before bad things happened. He's not in trouble," I told her, brushing damp hair from her forehead. "He's just in London and he'll be back soon. You're coming home with me." I set her up on my couch with a blanket and a kid's documentary about whales. The twins toddled around Ava, offering Emma a plastic spoon like it was a treasure. By bedtime, the fever eased and a text popped up. "Landing in 3 hours. Coming straight to you." He showed up at midnight, rumpled and human, the kind of tired that lives in your bones. He didn't cross the threshold at first, just looked at me like a person who'd been underwater too long and suddenly remembered air. "How is she sleeping? She likes documentaries about whales. Theo now believes he's a dolphin." He huffed and almost laughed, then guilt punched him. "I listed you as emergency contact without asking." "I'm sorry." "Ask next time," I said. "But for the record, thank you for trusting me." We sat in the quiet living room where the hum of the fridge became a clock. He told me London almost ate him. I told him the twins refused peas unless you called them green rockets. Then he stared into his tea like it could answer back and said, "I want custody of Emma. Not weekends, not presents, actual responsibility. I'm done being the uncle who visits." I felt that in places I didn't know were still raw. "Then do it," I said. "You already know what matters. Rearrange the rest." He nodded, then looked up, something new and fragile in his face. "There's more." The day at Harbor Light wasn't an accident. Ms. Patel called me, said you reminded her of my sister. I went because I couldn't not. But everything after the job, this. He gestured at the apartment that had become a life. That wasn't charity anymore. I started looking forward to seeing you, and I told myself it was about the twins, about the work. But it wasn't just that. My heart punched the inside of my ribs. And if I weren't your employee? He didn't answer. He didn't have to, because small footsteps shuffled in the hall. Emma appeared, hair a nest, clutching a stuffed rabbit. Uncle Damon, she whispered, climbing into his lap without asking. Can we go home? Yeah, kiddo, he murmured into her hair. Then gentler. How would you feel about living with me? All the time. She studied him with her mother's eyes. Like you'd be my dad, she said. He swallowed. If you want. I can't replace her, but she said you need someone to take care of you, Emma declared like a judge banging a gavel. So, yes. We laughed, the kind of laugh you only get after a long, dark hallway. 6 months later, the paperwork was done. Emma, smart, serious, map-loving Emma was his daughter. He stopped wearing his martyrdom like a necktie, delegated more read bedtime stories that made him cry. I moved department's director of community outreach, a title that sounded like a door staying open for other people. The twins learned to run, and learned to run faster when Emma chased them. The apartment across town started feeling small. One evening on his balcony river, turning gold kids constructing a tower inside like architects with 0 permits, he handed me a glass and cleared his throat, which for Damon is basically fireworks. Your lease is up next month, he said. If you want to renew, I'll help however you decide. Or, there's space here. We could build out the east side, your own suite, your own rules. I don't want to rush anything. I just don't want you to think you're alone anymore. I love you, Riley. I set the glass down so I wouldn't drop a yes on the concrete. Is this a business proposal, I teased? Absolutely not, he said, smiling with the eyes this time. This is me finally choosing the right thing on time. So here's where I leave you, on a balcony above a city that once swallowed me and now looks like a place I could live. Did I move in? Did I decide keeping doors of my own was the lesson I needed to teach my kids? You'll have opinions. I know you will. Tell me this. If someone with power reaches out a hand, is accepting it strength or surrender? And which one scares us more because of what people might say? Drop your take in the comments. Who was right? Who was wrong? What you've seen pride and poverty do in the real world. If you've ever needed a second chance or given one, tell us how it ended. And if you want more stories like this messy, human, complicated, hit subscribe, share this with someone who needs it, and let's argue about what justice actually looks like.